Two-sport performer Brian Bethune first rose to prominence as a member of the 1960 Berwick Junior Legionnaires, the first ever Berwick softball team to capture a provincial championship. A talented pitcher, Brian helped the Legionnaires win the Maritime Championship that year as well.
Brian was such a pitcher that he enjoyed striking people out, you know. So we would just more or less ran out in the field. There might have been 3 strikeouts and we were back in. You know, we never got much. You know, not too many balls hit to anyone, you know, any players.
By 1963, Brian was playing for the Dr. Ron Thorpe coached Cambridge Red and Whites, who captured the Western Valley Championship. Ironically, their opponents in the best-of-7 final series, won by Cambridge 4-3, were the Berwick Legionnaires.
I found him, I didn't really start playing ball with him until mid-63. And that was with Cambridge, and he had been playing maybe a year or something like that before. Very, very dedicated, focused, and he wanted to be the very best that he could do for himself and for the team.
Brian was again a member of the Red and Whites in 1964. That team, which repeated as Maritime champions, was inducted into the Berwick Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. In the early 1970s, Brian's father Rod asked him to skip a competitive curling team. Active at the club level for many years, Rod was interested in competing at a higher level. Blessed with natural athletic ability, Brian took to curling as he had softball and exhibited the same level of dedication as his father.
Well, Brian started very young in curling. He probably started in the early 60s, before this club that we're here today was built. The curling club previously was in the old arena. Anyway, Brian curled with his dad down in the Middleton during that time. This club, around the early 60s, I think this club was built in around 63, 64. So he got off to a real early start, and his father was a great curler. And they curled a lot together in later years, but Brian learned a lot from his dad in earlier years.
Dave Miller and Bill Wilson, arguably the strongest front end in the Valley at that time, rounded out the team, which entered provincial play and took part in several bonspiels during the 1971-1972 season.
He was a keen competitor. You know, we were always, or he, you know, Brian would be, he called the strategy, but never, you know, lots of times we'd get together and talk about what strategy should be used. And then sometimes after the game, you know, we'd sit down and we'd say, well, you know, maybe we shouldn't have made that takeout, maybe we should have drawn around the port or come inside, and always kind of reflect back. And yeah, he's a keen competitor, always.
Team Bethune, with Brian throwing skip stones, won the Western Counties Bonspiel played in Kentville, edging the defending champions from Baccarat 7-6 in the final on a last rock draw by Brian. The Berwick Curlers were presented with the Ralston Cup, the first time in its 46-year history it had been won by a team from Berwick.
Yeah, I would like to recognize him for what he has put into the community. You know, his skills in curling stand on their own, but he's done a lot of work with the youth of the community and done a lot of work with the club and in promoting curling and promoting sports in general, really. He's been a great credit to our community. We're fortunate to have him, really.
The Berwick and District Sports Hall of Fame is pleased to induct in the athlete category Brian Bethune, a multiple champion in both softball and curling.